Hi all. Looking forward to our Mindful Law Student Conferences that will commence after class next Friday. Each of you has by now hopefully signed up for your slot. You're in groups of 4 or 5 where you'll be presenting one after the other on your paper topics. And in this segment, I'm interested in giving you a little bit of information so that you can plan and comfortably be prepared for our time together. The structure will be one where each of you will present from between 5 to 7 minutes. Time will be kept, so you'll be able to know where you are in that time frame, at least 5 minutes, not more than 7 minutes, where you'll present on your paper topic, after which each of the students who are participating in that segment will then share with you their feedback, their thoughts on your presentation. This is an opportunity to learn as much as it is to develop, greater skill and efficacy at presenting and delivering. And so you can certainly ask and make clear, I'm not sure about this practice, and I think I'm going to go in this direction, but I'd be interested in your feedback, and to really ask your classmates to provide you with feedback in areas that might be particularly on your mind. And after your classmates offer their suggestions or comments, feedback, I'll then follow up with some feedback as well and maybe ask some questions. And so we'll go through this process with everybody sharing on their paper topic. And the intention is that all of it is an opportunity for you to learn, because the underlying subject matter is going to be explored in different areas, but the underlying subject matter will be running through all of these. In the best of all worlds, and historically for the last better part of the last decade, when we would have the Mindful Law Student Conference, everybody would be in the room together on a Saturday for fully the full day and have the opportunity to learn from everybody. But here, for a variety of reasons, we're going to be doing it in this format. And so I didn't think it was as useful to be online together for that period of time. But you will have an opportunity to watch not only your own presentation, which I'll be happy to provide you with, but really other presentations that you didn't have an opportunity to participate in at the time. Now, some of you are probably interested in knowing, well, what is it that I'm going to do in my 5 to 7 minutes? And so let me just take a few moments to give you a sense of the path that might take. It really is in many ways for you to decide for yourself in terms of what would be most helpful to you. But I think this would be a useful roadmap. But essentially, you'll introduce yourself. You'll say sort of where you are. My name is Scott Rogers. I'm a 3L at the University of Miami School of Law. I'm interested in writing on the relationship between mindfulness and blank. And so you set that up. So right off the bat, the audience knows a little bit about you, and also what your paper topic is, front and center. You may then say why it is that you're interested in this subject matter. I would encourage that. I chose to write about this because, and then share something along those lines. Of course, be true to yourself. Share as much or as little information in that regard as you would like, but it tends to be helpful, and it tends to help make sense, and it tends to be something that many of you will include in parts in your paper. So if that's the case, that's a useful way to begin. And then, to talk about what the flow of your paper is. I'm going to first introduce the reader to what mindfulness is. I'm not making this up. Please think about what makes the most sense for you. What mindfulness is. I'm very interested in the science of mindfulness, so I'm going to share a little bit about the science of mindfulness with the reader. In the area that I'm integrating mindfulness to, the reason why I've explored that is explain some of the challenges perhaps in that area, and why mindfulness or mindfulness practices can be helpful in the service of that particular area that you're focusing on. And then to share the mindfulness practice or practices that you're going to be or plan to include in your paper, and why you've chosen that particular practice or those practices, to explain how it is that mindfulness can be helpful in this area. In class on Friday, we talked about how if a physician gave a patient a pill and they would just say, if you take this pill, you'll feel this way, that's sort of good enough. But here we're not doctors or physicians talking to patients. We are colleagues talking among ourselves. And if a physician were to say to another physician, or a pharmaceutical rep were to say to a physician, here's this pill, if you give this to your patients, they will feel X, Y, and Z, as you astutely noted in class, the physician would say, why? What is the relationship? How is this helpful in this regard? And that's something that your paper is going to perhaps most meaningfully be of benefit to the reader to understand the why. It's also, I think, among the more challenging aspects of your paper. So this is an opportunity for you to begin to try to explain that, to put that into words, and then to get feedback on that. And then perhaps, tips for, bringing mindfulness into the day. Maybe there's a short practice that we've also learned that you'll want to say. And this can be done in a short way as well as in a more formal way. And so when you're finished, we'll have a sense of really what your paper's about, how you plan to introduce mindfulness, what practice or practices that you are interested in including and sharing with the reader, why you've chosen those, and then ways of making it practical, or tips for bringing the practice into the busy and challenging day of a law student or a lawyer, depending upon your audience. All right. It's meant to be informal, so be prepared, but be comfortable. It's meant to be a conversation, meaning you're talking, about this in a more relaxed way, but you know where you're going. You're not just showing up and you're going to wing it. If that's your intention, then it won't be as useful to you in all likelihood. You certainly could read something if you chose to, but I strongly encourage you not to be reading something. Of course, you're going to be at your computer and you can have notes that you look at to help bring you from point to point. But by this stage in the game, you have a sense of how you like to present and all that. But in the spirit of mindfulness and the spirit of being open and receptive and developing greater trust of ourselves and being willing to sort of move to the edge of our comfort zone, I want to encourage you to be prepared and then, show up and talk about your paper in a way that is enjoyable and meaningful. I think that we'll find the time that we spend together to be enjoyable and meaningful. I think it can be very helpful in my experience to giving you a deeper understanding of where your paper is going, to have you think about things and notice holes perhaps in how you're framing this that you wouldn't have otherwise realized as soon, and to learn a great deal from each other. Alrighty, with that, I hope this has been helpful. If you have any specific questions about your preparation for your presentation, let me know. And also, we'll be meeting in class next Friday, and if you have any questions, then we'll devote a little time to it at that point. All right.